what if the person draining you emotionally isn't the real problem? What if the real issue is the part of you that keeps letting them in, again and again? Now, I know that sounds harsh, but Virgo, with all your wisdom, with your sharp mind and kind heart, you have one blind spot that people rarely talk about: your need to be useful. You crave harmony, you seek to fix what's broken, and you take deep pride in being the one who stays calm when everyone else falls apart. But what if that beautiful trait is also your most dangerous weakness? We always talk about cutting off toxic people, setting boundaries, creating distance, but those are the surface level solutions. The deeper question is this: why do these people find you in the first place? Why do they cling to you? Why do they feel so oddly familiar, like a karmic echo from a past life? It's not random. It's energetic. It's soul level. These people, especially the ones who wear the mask of a victim, a friend, or a helpless soul, don't just show up by accident. They appear at the exact moment you're about to level up spiritually. They are mirrors, tests, sometimes even messengers, but their purpose is the same: to challenge your loyalty to yourself. You see, the universe doesn't always teach through ease. Sometimes it teaches through resistance, by bringing in people who reflect back your unhealed patterns. This isn't punishment. This is preparation. If you've been feeling pulled, used, confused, you're not failing, you're awakening. You're Virgo. This is the lesson your soul signed up for, learning when to give and when to walk away. Not to prove a point, but to protect your peace. Welcome to your next chapter. Let's talk about something that most Virgos feel deep down but rarely say out loud. You want to be useful. You want to be the one people can count on. That's part of your nature. It's how you express love, loyalty, and even self-worth. But here's the problem: not everyone deserves that part of you. And some people know exactly how to use it against you. As a Virgo, you've got this incredible gift of observation. You see the patterns, the inconsistencies, the unspoken signals, and when someone's in trouble or a situation feels chaotic, your instinct is to bring order. You want to help, fix it, heal it. It's not because you think you're better than others. It's because deep down, there's a part of you that equates your value with your ability to solve problems. But that mindset is also your Achilles heel. It makes you a magnet for emotionally chaotic people. They don't just show up randomly, they sense your energy. They can almost smell your willingness to sacrifice. And when they do, they don't ask if you have the bandwidth to help. They just start unloading their pain, their crisis, their drama. All of it lands on your shoulders before you even realize what's happening. And because you're responsible, thoughtful, and tend to hold yourself to high standards, you take it all on. You internalize it. You say to yourself, maybe I can help them get better. Maybe they just need stability. But what's really happening is that your energy is being siphoned, little by little, until one day you wake up and you're exhausted, irritable, uninspired, and you don't even know why. Here's a simple but powerful truth. Just because someone needs help doesn't mean it has to come from you. And just because you can fix something doesn't mean it's your responsibility to do so. Some people don't want healing, they want attention. Some people don't want solutions, they want a savior to blame when things don't change. The biggest trap for Virgo isn't the chaos around you. It's the belief that your worth is tied to how well you manage that chaos. But you're not a machine. You're not a constant fixer. You're a human being. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to step back. You're allowed to protect your peace, even when someone else is falling apart. So take a moment and ask yourself, are you helping because it truly feels right? Or are you helping because you're afraid of what it would mean if you stopped? Sometimes the most healing thing you can do is walk away, not out of cruelty, but out of wisdom. Protecting your energy doesn't make you cold. It makes you conscious. And that is the beginning of true Virgo power. Now, let's talk about the woman you need to be aware of. Not just generally toxic, not just hard to get along with. I'm talking about someone who operates on a level of emotional manipulation that is so subtle, so calculated. It can take months, even years, before you realize what she's done to you. There are typically two main types, and both are dangerous in different ways. The first kind is the damsel in distress. She's always in trouble, always needs saving, and for some reason, her problems always seem to land right in your lap. She might seem sweet, even innocent at first. You'll notice she often looks tired, frazzled, overwhelmed, and that triggers your Virgo instinct to step in and organize the chaos. You tell yourself you're just helping, just being kind. But before you know it, you've become her unpaid therapist, her emotional crutch, her personal fixer. And the more you help, the more problems she has. She's never quite stable, never quite okay. And no matter what you do, it's never enough. She may cry easily. She might text you late at night in emotional panic. She'll say things like, "I just don't know who else to turn to." And because you're compassionate, you stay, you listen, you problem solve. But here's the thing, her chaos is a loop. It feeds off your energy. She's not trying to heal. She's trying to survive by attaching herself to someone like you who knows how to stay grounded. And when you finally pull away, even a little, she falls apart or makes you feel like you've abandoned her. Then there's the second kind, the perfectionist controller. She's everything the first woman isn't. Put together, polished. She walks in with confidence, says all the right things, and may even impress you at first. She compliments your structure, your logic, your standards. You think, finally someone who gets me. But slowly, things shift. Her compliments turn into critiques, subtle jabs. "Are you sure that's the best way to do it? I thought you would have handled that better." She masks control as care. She plays the long game slowly, strategically unraveling your self-confidence while still smiling sweetly. Her favorite tactic, making you question your judgment, not by yelling, not by attacking, but by sowing seeds of doubt. And for a Virgo, someone who values precision, clarity, and consistency, that's like poison. You start overanalyzing, second-guessing. You find yourself apologizing for things you didn't even do wrong. And every time you bring up how you feel, she turns it around, says you're being too sensitive, or worse, that she's just trying to help. Both types may seem different on the surface, but deep down, they share a common core emotional dependence and deflection. They cannot carry their own emotional weight, so they look for someone who can, someone stable, someone responsible, someone like you. And once they find you, they dig in deep. What's even scarier? Sometimes these women show up in your life disguised as friends, co-workers, romantic interests, or even family members. And because they're not throwing things or screaming, they often go unnoticed. But the damage they cause is internal, slow erosion of self-worth, of clarity, of peace. You might find yourself dreading conversations with them, but feeling guilty if you avoid them. You'll think about what they need before you think about your own needs. You'll be tired all the time, not from physical exertion, but from carrying the emotional weight of someone who refuses to carry their own. Here's a hard truth: not everyone who says they need help is being honest. Some people don't want healing. They want attention. They want validation. And most of all, they want someone else to carry the burden of their pain. And you, Virgo, with your sense of duty and care, become the perfect vessel. But knowing this, really seeing it, is the first step to freedom. Once you recognize the patterns, the tone of voice, the way the conversation always turns back to them, the way they show up in crisis only to disappear when you need support, you can start to step back, not with cruelty, but with wisdom. You weren't made to fix people who are committed to staying broken. You weren't born to be someone's emotional life raft while they refuse to learn how to swim. Your compassion is sacred, and you get to choose who receives it. You're not cold for protecting your energy. You're not selfish for choosing peace. You're evolving, and anyone who truly values you will never ask you to diminish yourself so they can feel better. Let's go deeper into how these women operate, because the real damage isn't just in what they say, it's in how they say it. It's in the timing, the tone, the subtle shifts that happen when you start setting boundaries. Emotional manipulation isn't loud. It doesn't walk into a room screaming. It whispers. It coils. It waits for the perfect moment to strike when your guard is down. There are 3 main tactics they use, and once you recognize these, you'll never unsee them. The first one is victimhood. She positions herself as the one who's always being hurt, always misunderstood, always mistreated. When you try to create space, she acts like you're abandoning her. If you express a need, suddenly her needs are louder. If you say no, she makes it sound like you're cruel or heartless. She'll say things like, "I didn't think you'd turn your back on me," or "I guess I was wrong about you." The goal? To make you feel guilty not for doing something wrong, but for doing something right, foe. The second tactic is doubt not overt, but seated. She questions your memory, your intentions, your reactions. You'll hear things like, "Are you sure that's how it happened?" or "I think you're being too sensitive." And at first, you brush it off. But over time, you start to question yourself. You go from feeling confident in your decisions to overanalyzing every word, every move. This tactic is especially damaging to Virgo, because you already strive to be precise. She turns your strength, your anal. Then there's the third weapon, using your goodness against you. This is where she gets really clever. She doesn't attack you directly. She flatters your identity. She says, "I always thought you were different," or "I counted on you because you're so reliable." She builds you up, not to empower you, but to guilt trip you into staying. The manipulation here is subtle but powerful. She uses the version of yourself that you're most proud of, your loyalty, your generosity, as a tool to control you. And these tactics don't show up all at once. They're layered, gradual, and that's why they're so dangerous. You don't wake up one day feeling manipulated. You wake up slowly doubting yourself, feeling heavy, questioning your instincts. And by the time you realize what's happening, you're already tangled in emotional cords that are hard to cut. What's worse is that she rarely apologizes. If you confront her, she'll deflect, minimize, or worse, turn it around. Suddenly, you're the one who's overreacting. You're the problem. You're making things difficult. And that kind of reversal is devastating for someone who just wants clarity and resolution. But here's the key: you're not crazy. You're not imagining it. The moment you start feeling like you have to explain your feelings, justify your boundaries, or prove your reality, that's your sign. That's your wake-up call. Emotional manipulation is real. It's calculated, and it's targeted. Especially toward people like you, people who care deeply, who give fully, who believe in helping others. But your empathy is not a weakness. It just needs to be guarded, directed, reserved for those who honor it. Once you see these tactics, you begin to reclaim your power, not by fighting back in the same way, but by stepping away, staying grounded, and trusting your truth. Because no one has the right to bend your mind just to suit their emotional convenience. And the more you recognize the signs, the faster you can free yourself from the cycle. Let's talk about what happens when you stay in these kinds of relationships for too long. Not just the day-to-day exhaustion or the occasional emotional outburst. I'm talking about the deep, long-term impact, the kind that creeps in slowly, silently, until one day, you don't even recognize yourself anymore. At first, it feels like you're just being helpful, like you're being a good friend, a supportive partner, a compassionate listener. You rationalize the stress. You tell yourself it's just a phase. But what you don't realize is that you're not just giving your time or your attention. You're giving away your energy, your clarity, your essence. And the longer you stay, the more you start to feel disconnected from your own life. You lose the spark that once made you excited to wake up in the morning. Your creativity dries up. Your productivity dips. You start second-guessing every decision you make, not just in the relationship, but everywhere. Work, family, self-care. You begin to feel like you're walking through fog all day, barely keeping up, always behind, and never really sure why. Your body even starts to speak. You might feel more tired than usual. Sleep becomes shallow or disrupted. Maybe you start waking up in the middle of the night feeling anxious or heavy. You notice you're snapping at people you care about, not because they did anything wrong, but because you're stretched too thin. You're running on empty, and no one seems to notice. Or worse, they notice, and they still expect you to keep giving. This kind of energetic depletion doesn't just affect your mood. It messes with your nervous system, your hormones, your immune response. All because you've been stuck in a cycle of giving, fixing, absorbing, and receiving nothing in return. And even though Virgo is one of the most resilient signs in the zodiac, there's a limit to how long you can keep pouring from an empty cup. Over time, this imbalance starts pulling you away from your own path. You stop doing the things that once grounded you. You isolate more. You silence your intuition, dismiss your needs, and push your dreams to the side, all because someone else's chaos became louder than your own voice. And that, right there, is how your soul starts to drift. Because here's the truth, you have a destiny, a path that's uniquely yours. And when you're caught in the emotional gravity of someone who refuses to heal, you're not just stuck, you're being redirected away from that path. Their storms become your climate. Their instability becomes your normal. And eventually, you start to forget that life used to feel different. Have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, I don't feel like myself anymore? That's not just burnout. That's spiritual misalignment. That's your inner compass trying to recalibrate, but the noise around you is too loud to hear it. And here's the hardest part sometimes. The longer you stay, the harder it is to leave, not because you don't want to, but because you've started to believe the lie that this is all you deserve. That if you were stronger, you could fix it. That if you just tried harder, things would go back to how they were. But that's the trap, because nothing goes back. And the version of you that's being lost in the process, they're worth fighting for. Reclaiming your energy starts with one brave act: choosing yourself, saying no, stepping away, not with anger, but with clarity, with love for the person you're becoming. You don't owe anyone your self-destruction in the name of loyalty. What you owe is to your soul, to your future, to your healing. Because when you finally choose to protect your light, everything starts to change. Your energy returns, your vision clears, and slowly, you remember who you were before you were drained by someone who never intended to refill you. There's a reason this woman showed up in your life, and it goes deeper than coincidence. It's not just bad luck or poor timing. This is a spiritual checkpoint, a karmic invitation, a test from the universe designed not to punish you, but to awaken you. Because every soul, especially one as wise and service-oriented as Virgo, comes into this life with specific lessons. And some of those lessons can only be learned through emotional friction. When someone enters your life and disrupts your peace, your balance, your sense of self, you can either see it as chaos or you can see it as a mirror. This woman, with all her manipulation, inconsistency, and emotional chaos, is reflecting something back to you. not because you deserve to suffer, but because your soul is ready to evolve, and evolution never comes easy. You see, as a Virgo, your strength is in your service. You heal, you organize, you bring structure to what is broken. But that strength becomes a trap when it's used to validate your worth, when your ability to fix others becomes the only way you feel valuable. You attract people who need fixing over and over again until you learn the difference between love and obligation, between compassion and self-abandonment. That's the karmic pattern, the loop. And it continues until you decide to break it. And the universe. It doesn't send easy tests. It sends the ones that hit where it hurts, the ones that force you to question your role, your motives, your limits. It sends people who trigger your deepest programming so you'll finally notice the program, so you'll rewrite it. This woman is your test. Not because she's evil, not because you're weak, but because the version of you that tolerates this dynamic is ready to be released. She came into your life as a loud signal from the universe saying, you're ready for more clarity, more self-respect, more alignment. But before you can receive that more, you have to close the chapter on what no longer serves you. Here's the uncomfortable truth: your soul chose this experience. Not consciously, not in your day-to-day mind, but on a higher level. Your soul knew that this entanglement would push you to finally put yourself first, to learn how to love without losing yourself, to give without bleeding out, to care without being consumed. The moment you begin asking the right questions, why do I keep attracting people like this? What part of me believes I have to earn love through service is the moment you shift from victim to conscious participant. That's when the karmic wheel starts to turn in your favor. That's when growth begins. And when you finally pass the test, when you hold your boundary, when you choose peace over proving a point, when you walk away without needing to be right, the universe responds. You'll notice new kinds of people entering your life. People who support without draining. People who respect your energy. People who don't see your worth as a tool to be used, but as a light to be honored. Because spiritual evolution isn't just about meditation or rituals. It's about choices. The small ones, the hard ones, the ones no one sees. It's saying no when you've always said yes. It's letting someone be disappointed in you because you finally chose yourself. It's trusting that your soul doesn't need to fix another broken person in order to feel whole. So if you're in this pattern now, if you're deep in the lesson, don't despair. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're being refined. This is the part of the story where you stop being the helper in everyone else's life and become the main character in your own. You're not here to carry karmic weight for others. You're here to free yourself from it. And once you do, everything changes. Because the lesson has been learned. The cycle is complete, and your soul can finally move forward, lighter, stronger, and clearer than ever before. Now that you've seen the pattern, the person, the damage, what do you do next? How do you protect your energy without closing your heart? How do you stay kind without being consumed? The answer isn't in becoming harder. It's in becoming clearer. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors with locks, and you decide who gets the key. The first step is to trust your initial feeling. You know that moment when something feels off, but you can't explain it. That's your intuition speaking. And for Virgo, intuition often arrives as a quiet discomfort, a subtle tension, or a slight shift in your usual sense of clarity. Don't dismiss it just because you can't rationalize it. Energy doesn't lie. When someone's presence consistently makes you feel confused, heavy, or less like yourself, believe that feeling. You don't need hard evidence to protect Yai. Second, monitor how you feel after interacting with someone. Do you feel lighter or heavier, clearer or more scattered, energized or drained? Start keeping a mental or written note of these interactions. Over time, patterns will emerge, and those patterns will give you permission to act not based on guilt or obligation, but on truth. Third, set boundaries early and clearly. Don't wait until you're at your limit. Decide ahead of time what kind of support you're willing to give, and for how long. And when someone tries to cross that line and they will hold your ground, you don't need to justify your limits. A simple, calm, and firm "This doesn't work for me" is enough. The more you explain, the more you open yourself to debate, and your well-being is not up for negotiation. Fourth, surround yourself with people who give back, not just emotionally, but energetically. Relationships should feel mutual, not one-sided. The more you experience balanced, healthy connections, the easier it becomes to spot unhealthy ones. Contrast brings clarity, and clarity builds confidence. Lastly, and most importantly, nurture your own energy daily. Protecting yourself isn't just about defense, it's about maintenance. Make space for silence. Engage in rituals that ground you, whether it's journaling, nature walks, mindful breathing, or simply doing something that brings you joy. When your energy is strong and centered, manipulation can't stick. It slides right off. You are not here to fix the world at your own expense. You are not required to explain your worth through sacrifice. You are allowed to be kind and powerful, soft and unshakable, giving and protected. And the moment you start living from that truth, you stop attracting people who only come to take. You begin to attract those who honor your light, not because they need it to survive, but because they see it as sacred. That's the shift. That's your power. And once it's activated, your energy becomes your most unbreakable boundary. So now you've seen the full picture, the pattern, the pain, the purpose. If someone came to mind while you were listening, don't ignore that instinct, that quiet voice inside you. That's your higher self nudging you toward truth. You're not crazy. You're not too sensitive. You're finally seeing clearly. This isn't about blame. It's about clarity. And with clarity comes choice. You can choose to keep repeating this cycle, or you can choose something different, something that honors who you're becoming. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to ground it. Say it out loud: I am reclaiming my energy. Type it in the comments. Let the universe know you're ready for better. Your voice matters even digitally. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications. There's more guidance coming your way, tools to help you recognize the unseen energy patterns shaping your life and how to step fully into your worth. Remember, you're not here to be consumed. You're here to create, to grow, to shine. And the more you choose you, the more the world starts choosing you back. You are worth protecting. Always.